Good morning, Tony Virtue speaking, and happy Easter to you all. The year's just flying by. Let's start with local news, and most of you are probably aware that the state government was returned at the weekend. Pretty much expected. I think that will be a positive for certainly for the Sydney market. I think it'll be good for property, good for financial services. Sydney is increasingly a financial services hub, and also a bit of a technology hub going forward. So I think the markets will reward that, and they'll see some certainty over at least the next 4 years in planning for the future. So I think that's a good news story. Those of you actually living in Manly, you'll know we have a new JetCat timetable today. So we'll be able to get in and out of the city up to 9:30 at night, which is a great thing. And again, keeping Manly accessible to the rest of the city is just crucial for the local community. So again, a good news story there, and some of the information in my presentation just shows just how big New South Wales is compared to other areas. 4 times the size of Singapore as an example there. Yesterday the federal government came out with their discussion paper on tax. Again, there's a link to actually have a look at that. Quite instructive what is going on there. So a couple of things to take out of this. First of all, personal tax is 50% of the total tax rate. And without bracket creep, what is happening is that more and more of, quote, middle Australia is going into a higher tax rate. And other countries do index this, we don't. And so over time, what that means is that the additional money you may get as a salary increase, you're paying a higher rate of tax on that. The other thing to consider is that corporation tax is coming down around the world. My home of birth, in Britain, London, tax rates down from 30 to 20%, and you'll see the same in Canada, obviously up in Asia as well. Now that makes Australia uncompetitive. It means that capital is very mobile, and increasingly businesses will domicile themselves outside of Australia, and then they'll shuffle their income expenses around for their subsidiaries down here. So we need to do something about that. Finally, our GST is the 3rd lowest in the world at 10%. So our GST, or if I can say tax from actually consumption, is much lower than the rest of the world. It's politically dynamite. You've got to get 6 states and both sides of federal politics to agree to this, but I'd anticipate over time they'll increase the GST rate, and they'll also increase the width and include things like food in that, which is a touchy subject to work through there. One of the areas I think they will pick up on is superannuation, and obviously we live right in the middle of it here, particularly larger balances in retirement. And the word from Canberra is if you've got a balance above $2.5 million and you're drawing down a good income stream from your CBA shares and your dividends and your franking credits, there'll be some activity in that space. Historically that has not been retrospective, but the message is that superannuation is for the superannuant, not for their children, their grandchildren, etc, etc. And what we're effectively seeing is balances above $2.5 million. There may well have been $150,000 to $200,000 worth of tax-free payments coming down, and that was being forwarded via family trusts into the wider family sector. So that really wasn't the intent of super, and that will only impact on a small minority of the public there. But as I always say this time of the year, if you are going to do something with super, try and do it prior to the budget, just in case they make a decision on the day there. But I think that's got bipartisan support. Markets have been very good for the first quarter. What does that mean? Probably a time of slowing down a bit now. Hard to know how much of that is really from, if I can say, earnings per share growth, and how much of that is just purely a function of very low interest rates around the world, and the fact that there's a lot of cost cutting. As you can see, there's more and more self-service going on for, if I can say, basic jobs. And what that has meant, particularly in the financial services sector, is that there's been an automation of jobs that has reduced expenses, and that's flown through into profits. But you can only do that for so long. Eventually you've got to innovate, you've got to come up with ideas, you've got to employ people, and you've got to be a smart country. So that's going to be the key there. I listed a few of the companies there I like. It's not a tip. They're not cheap, and there's nothing unique in what I'm saying there, but I do like businesses where the actual founders have still got good shareholding in the business. They're number 1, number 2 in the Australian market. They've got some scale, and they can duplicate that around the world. So some examples there for you to have a look at. Finally, interest rates are very low. The tip is that they're going to continually drop, which I think is a mixed blessing. Certainly for retirees, it's not a good news story. It does mean now you can borrow money to buy shares, which is, if I can say, positively geared. In other words, the interest payment is lower than the dividends you'll get from the shares you're investing in. We will go through that prior to year end. Shares do go down as well as up, but at least your cash can be managed in a situation like that. So those of you who've got good jobs and plenty of cash at the moment, there's probably a bit of a free lunch out there. The majority of you who I deal with daily who are concerned about work and cash, I do understand, and we are here to help everybody, not just the fortunate. Finally, we do have our 25th birthday function coming up. It's 25 years, where did it all go? And our next function is in Hugo's late May. Really, it is an open invitation to all of you, big and small, all different ages, to come along. Love to see you all there and to greet you personally. So happy Easter to you all, and we'll talk soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.